All right, folks, we are ready to embark on the off-season and gear up for the 2035 season. And we've got ourselves a few things that we need to figure out here heading into this off-season. First of them is that Yuri Perez voided his contract. He is a pending free agent, so we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with him because he's been our ace. He's been our dude at the top of the rotation ever since we had him these 4 years. He's just been an absolute stud for us. Coming off this ludicrous season where he had this absurdly low BABIP and got very lucky, but I mean, even with the normal BABIP numbers he was getting, still was our ace. So I'm not surprised that he opted out of it because he was only projected to make like 28 million or something like that. So very much not surprised that he opted out, but we're going to have to figure out if we want to bring him back or not. Now, he wants a long-term deal with another opt-out after 3 years. I don't think we want to do this. If we can get him for like 3-4 years, and like the fourth year is like a team or vesting option, that would be something I would be interested in doing. But I'm not interested in having another guy signed into like this 36, 37 range because we saw how poorly that went with Zach Gallen. It did not go well with Brandon Woodruff. It's kind of just what happens when you sign these long-term deals to guys who are in their 30s. You're just kind of accepting that the last few years of them are probably not going to be great. And we're already in a situation like that right now, so I don't know if I want to sign up for another one. So like I said, if we can get him for like 4 years or the fourth year is like a vesting option, that's something I would be interested in. We will keep checking in on that and see how that thing goes. The other guy who had an option, who had an opt-out he could have done, was Juan Soto, but fortunately for us, he does opt into his contract, and he's kind of like the unicorn, where you're like, he opts in, but it's only for one more year. Or it was a player option he had. He had a player option for the last year of his contract, so we have one more year of Juan Soto at 30 million, and then he'll be 37 entering free agency. Probably won't bring him back at that point, especially since we're in this weird situation right now where we have Logan O'Hoppe is our catcher. And he's not a catcher anymore, folks. He's just, he can't do it. I tried to make him learn a new position in the offseason, hoping that he might get like a ratings boost to his infield range and stuff like that. But, and even if we did have the first base capability for him, which we can easily do in spring training, just playing first base, but it's not like he's hitting enough to be like a first baseman, and it's not like we have the spot open. Like, we've got Aquino, and like, let's just say, for example, we could move Aquino back to third, Padilla goes to second, then where do we put Huzzy? Huzzy is a legit part of our team now. We're not going to bench Huzzy. He was great for us. He wasn't great defensively, quite bad, honestly. Honestly, we might even be better off having Huzzy at first, and then, yeah, we might even be better off having Huzzy at first, and then Aquino at third, and Padilla at second. That might even be the best alignment for us. But we don't have a spot open because really the only way possible that we could get O'Hoppe into like this first base spot that I see is that we move Aquino to third, Huzzy stays at second, O'Hoppe plays first, and then we just don't have Dowd playing for us, which I'm not opposed to getting a different shortstop this season. Him and Shalowski were quite bad. I don't think Dad is ever going to get anywhere close to this ever again. I think that was the biggest fluke of all flukes. And I don't think that Dad is like a long-term starter for us. So I'm not opposed to getting him, but I don't want to put Padilla there. Because he does have the 60 potential at shortstop, but it's like, it's not going to be great. So like, we would be sacrificing pretty big on the infield defense. And then, we would still have Huzzy playing second, who's not the greatest second baseman. I'm going to keep throwing him in the dev lab, trying to improve that second base, but, it hasn't worked like 2 seasons in a row. Maybe it finally works this year, but as of right now, he's not a great second baseman. And then Padilla is the best of the bunch defensively, and then obviously Aquino he's fine at third base, but he's more suited to play first base. So we would have some pretty poor infield defense if we went that route. And I'm just not sure that's something I want to do just to get O'Hoppe in the lineup, because it's not like he's proven that he's still like that level of dude to where he should be in the lineup. I would be a little bit more inclined to possibly do that and put O'Hoppe at first base if he didn't have this huge downgrade in his walk and strikeout rate this season. You know, if he was still hanging around this like 12, 11 walk rate and like this 19 strikeout rate, I'd be like, okay, it was just a down year. Maybe he bounces back and hits well next year. But, you know, the fact that his walk rate dropped and his strikeout rate rose so much makes me think that, you know, O'Hoppe, he might be cooked, folks. He might be cooked. He's definitely cooked defensively. We cannot have this catching for us. We just can't. That's just unacceptable. So we're gonna have to figure out something. He might be like a really expensive bench bat for us, like backup catcher, first base, pinch hitter sort of guy, because we've got some catching prospects in the system who I think could give us similar, especially this type of offense. They could give us similar production, maybe even better production offensively with some of these guys that we have, and they're much, much better defensively. One of them is only a little bit better defensively, but the guys we have currently on the 40-man, we've got Frank Anaya, who was our backup last year. We should be aware of this guy now. He is a high leader, high loyalty, low financial ambition guy. Green across the board in the hitting, very average across the board with hitting, but he's, you know, he can hold his own. He could be like a 100 WRC plus guy, 98 WRC plus guy, absolutely, with a full season. And he's got the 70 framing and the 70 blocking, so you love to see that. And then we also have Luis Cuevas, who was a former 6th round pick of ours. He's got 65 framing, bit of an Austin Barnes profile with the weak arm, but he's also a high leader. And he's got some serious pop to his bat. He spent last year split between AA and AAA. He was fine at both levels. He was good in AA, but he was fine at AAA. He held his own. And he's another guy who I would not be opposed to having as our starting catcher over O'Hoppe at this point. But the real guy, I think, is like the real gem of these guys, who is more so a bat-first catcher, but can still hold his own a bit, is Steve Hagge. Steve Hagge was a 6th-round pick for us, switch-hitting catcher in the 2030 draft. He has been climbing the system here, folks. 2033, really well in A-ball, down in the California League, and then last year started with high A, was fine, and then he came up to AA and just absolutely was destroying the ball. Basically what happened was he had Player of the Week in high A, and I was like, oh, let's just call him up. And he just immediately was like, I'm here to rake. And he did exactly that. He was great in AA. His ratings jumped a bunch. Now, like I said, he's only a little bit better than O'Hoppe defensively, but at least it's all green, and he's young, so it'd be easier to throw him in the dev lab and try to get like a little bit of a improvement rather than like, you know, O'Hoppe's not going to improve catcher at this point in his career. But I think this guy, with the green contact, the 50 contact, combined with the 50 and the 60 power, or the 65 potential, he's got some serious starting potential for us, Mr. Anchor for Farico Impact. If there is even a single person who understands that reference, I'll be impressed. As far as the other options that we had on the team, Noah Schultz did indeed execute his option. Remember, he tore his UCL. He will be back probably around like June, July sort of area, so he's going to miss a couple months to the season, which is not great, because our pitching rotation has some questions. So does our bullpen. The bullpen was the problem the past 2 seasons. I feel like even though like stats-wise we had a really good bullpen ERA, I feel like the bullpen is what let us down in the postseason. Once again, back-to-back seasons of losing in the DS. But the bullpen was the big issue. But we've got a bit of an issue with the pitching overall right now. There's a few question marks with Noah Schultz going to be missing a bunch of time. We don't know if we're going to be able to get Perez back, which is obviously a big blow to our rotation. And then Jacob Mizorowski here, who is also, he's healthy right now, but he's fragile. He's 32. He's still really good. We have him signed to, we could do a team option next year for $20 million, or we could just buy him out for $2 million. I'm not sure what I want to do with him because I think that he's like, you could start him, but I really think that he's probably better suited to be a bullpen piece. And it's like, would I kind of want to just clear up that 20 million and see if we could go and spend it on somebody in free agency to really shore up some holes that like are more valuable than like a top end bullpen guy, or use it to like spread it out to multiple really good relievers that we could get in free agency, or something else. Who knows? But I'm not sold on picking up his option. So we'll see what we do with that. But I'm not 100% sold on doing that. But right now, if we take a look at the state of what the pitching staff is going to look like. Oh, I should also mention that Taro Kaneda is, with his partially torn UCL, he should be back for like opening day. So he'll be back for at least one more season at $15 million. I highly, highly doubt we pick up this option and he's gone after next year. But, it is what it is. Hopefully he's able to put up a decent closer season for us next year. But I can't put him on the 40-man right now because we have a full 40-man and I don't want to start DFAing guys quite yet. So just keep in mind that Kaneda and then maybe Livonis. Probably not, though. He's probably a guy we're looking to move on from. Livonis is. But definitely Kaneda is a guy who would be in this mix. He would be above these. So basically I have these relievers sorted by like how I'm viewing them. So like this giant middle relief clump are guys who I think are all in the same talent tier, where maybe Shamar is a little bit better, so I have him unused more often just to signify that. Because he's been in the big leagues. He's done things in the big leagues for us before. Was not great last year, but he has had success in the big leagues, and his ratings show that he should be a decent pitcher for us. He's got the spark plug personality class. He's a guy who could be pretty solid. He's got the potential to be good. And the rest of these guys are a bit more unproven, but I think they could give us like a similar like middle relief, not like top end, not like back end of the bullpen sort of guys, but guys who can give you steady innings if things go well. Harmon Stead, things did not go well for with his stint for us this season, but I think his ratings, he's a ground ball pitcher. He still has an option. He's still on the league minimum, so he's a guy worth keeping around. We've got Dan Brannick, who was a former starter. We took him as a starter. He got hurt, and his stamina went down. So now he's more of like a lefty bullpen guy, who I think is decent, but he's like definitely not a back end guy. He's like a lefty. He's just kind of like a lefty you have to throw into the bullpen mix. Lupe Molina, who we picked up off waivers, he's another guy who has one more option, and he's on league minimum, so it's like you might as well keep him around. Juan Machua, we've talked about him. He's been dominating in Double A in the rotation. I don't think he's a starter. Like, if you put him as a starter, he drops to 40, and I just don't think that he's a starter with this control. I think he could be a solid reliever, though. So I know it didn't go that well in his 30 and 2/3 innings, but I do think that he could be a solid reliever for us. And if he pitches well, I think that he could even improve some of this stuff and be more towards the range where I think Shamar is, where he's like on that borderline of being like a stud and more so like a middle relief guy. So he has the potential to improve, I think. Chase Tucson, another guy who just kind of a lefty you could throw in there with the big changeup, the big stuff, 80 hold runners. He's a lefty, just a good guy to have around. Has one more option year as well. And then I have Colin McKay, who I probably view in this mix talent-wise, but I have him listed as a specialist entirely because that's just where I'm putting him to differentiate him from the other guys, because he is somebody who's projected to make $4.4 million in arbitration this season. As a guy of his stature in the bullpen, his status, I don't think I want to pay him that much. So he's probably a guy I'm looking more so to flip here for something. Probably just maybe like a reliever or two that are cheaper. But I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. And as far as Sosa and Tackett here, I have them both listed as emergency starting pitcher because I think they both can be back end of bullpen guys. Maybe less so Tackett, because he just refuses to improve this stuff. His control limits him, and then he doesn't have this slider developed. He's just one of these weird guys who just constantly has the potential, but he never actually fills it. Maybe we try to throw him in for one of that thing in the dev lab this offseason. But as of right now, he's definitely more of a reliever, but he could possibly be a starter if he starts to improve some of this stuff. And that's why I have these guys here, because it's like maybe one of them could be our 5th starter this year, and we rock Lampkin, Flynn, Hoskins, maybe bring back Perez, sign somebody else to fill this 1-2 spot, depending on who we sign, what we put there. Or maybe we put Mizorowski in this bunch. So, like, say Mizorowski slots in here or something, or maybe we flip these two or something. Who knows? But these 4 plus maybe Sosa in that 5th starter role, I think Sosa could be a solid starter. We need this control to improve, so we'll probably throw him in the dev lab for control. He's got the adaptability, so I think that's worth a shot in the dev lab. I think he could be a really good starter. So if we can improve this control with these pitches and this stuff and this movement, I think he could be a good starter. So I think he's worth giving a shot to as that 5th starter spot. And maybe we bring back Mizorowski. He's in this spot. Maybe we don't bring back Mizorowski, spread around that money somewhere else. But definitely, I think Sosa's probably the front runner to be the 5th starter spot right now. And even if he's not a starter, he could be a really good reliever too. I know he didn't have the greatest year for us this year, but I think he's got the potential to be a really, really good piece for us. And it's also worth mentioning that even without not bringing back Mizorowski, even if we do bring back Mizorowski, we still have quite a bit of a total available money, so the budget is looking good. So, like, not bringing back Mizorowski would just make it so we have just an absolute shit ton of money to work with, which is always a good thing, because it makes you very flexible. You can do some things. But it's going to be an interesting offseason, because we've got some things to figure out. The rotation, the pitching, and the catching situation is the biggest ones, because Logan O'Hoppe, he just can't be our catcher this year. It's just not going to happen. Another thing worth mentioning is that Andres Carrasco is an expiring free agent as well, coming off another 4-WAR season. I haven't looked at this, but I'm assuming, yeah, he's going to want some serious change, and he's at that point where, like, he's starting to get up there in years, only has, like, 1 more year on the right side of 30. Not sure if I would want to sign him to a long-term deal. Definitely would not sign him to an 8-year deal, but we might look into something else where it's like 6, 5, probably like 4 or 5 is probably the most I'm going to do, but I'm not really looking to re-sign him that much, to be honest. I would be fine, honestly, with having Van Wijngaarden just slot back into that right field spot. I know he was not great for us this year, but that's because he just got, like, no playing time, couldn't get in a groove. He's proven that he's, like, a solid 2-WAR corner outfielder for us, and I think that's plenty fine. We have plenty of bats to go around, but I'm not totally out on bringing back Carrasco. He might be back. We'll have to see how we go about things, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. But I would not be totally opposed just having Van Wijngaarden play there. One thing I should mention, though, is that Fletcher Clancy had this great season for us in center field. I think we're probably leaning towards him being, like, just him being the only outfielder on as a backup this season, and just having him be, like, really good defensively in all 3 outfield spots, and being, like, a spark plug guy off the bench as a leader who can give you some good innings here and there, or some good appearances here and there. But I think we really want to try to unleash Canalate in center field this year. He only has 1 more option year, because we used already 2 of his options, and he's got the 80 grade range, the 80 grade center field, the big speed. His bat's improving, his gap power's up to 55 now for potential. I think we really need to just unleash him in center field, give him the run, play there every day, and let him figure things out, because he's the future at center field. Alright, so we've gone ahead and put the 8 guys into the dev lab here. The first one being Jorge Sosa. We're going to be trying to improve his control, possibly even get like a Juan Padilla style bump in the potential too. If we can get the potential up to 50, that would be fantastic. We would love to see that. Then we're also throwing Alejandro Canalate in the dev lab for gap power. We think his contact bat's going to be good. He's going to be able to slap around singles and draw some walks. We would like to be able to get some doubles in the gap. We would like to be able to see that to pair with this speed, so we're trying to tap into that more here. Then we threw in Stephen Piscotty Jr. as like a fringe sort of outfielder guy. If we could tap into this power, once again, get a Juan Padilla style dev lab bump on the power, we would love to see that because that would make him suddenly be much more viable of a player. I already think he's like a Van Wingarden type solid corner outfielder, but Piscotty could be more than that if he develops this power. Then also, Steve Hagge, Mr. Farico Impact here. We're trying to tap into this power. You know, get that up to 65. Make yourself as valuable as possible as a bat for us in the future. And then Jeff Boomer Janicki. Boomer, I don't know why he's Boomer. I don't know. Maybe he's just really, he's a freak. He's an old soul. We are trying to tap into his power as well. Common theme here. Make him a bit more interesting of a bat with this glove as well. I think that's worth going for here. And then Chris Lesnar. We are going to be trying to tap in. Honestly, I might not do this, but I think it's worth trying to tap in this eye. Try to make it so it evens it out a bit more to where, like, you know, you're going to strike out a ton. We've accepted that at this point. But maybe you can walk a bit more. Maybe you can get this eye up and get this OBP up there more in like the 330, 350 maybe even range. That's a bit high of an ask, but, you know, improve the OBP a little bit, improve the walk rate a bit. I would love to see that. And then the last two guys on here, Mike Hoskins, you know, obviously he has the low adaptability, work ethic, intelligence, but we've had successes with him before in the dev lab, and I think it's just worth going for some strength and conditioning improvement because we don't want him to be fragile. He is very, very good. He's proven to be very, very good. We want to keep him healthy, so we want to try to see if we can bump this fragility up a bit, even if it's just fragile bordering on normal. I would take that. And then the last guy we're throwing in here, once again a generate bat speed guy, is David Guadarrama, who is an international free agent signing of ours. Shortstop prospect. This guy could be the Alvaro Dad replacement. Maybe not this season, but in the future, especially if we can get this power bumped up and make him more of like a all or nothing type bat. He has the potential to be like very average across the board offensively, but if we can get this power up even more, that would be huge. And looking at the upcoming free agents for pitchers, the best of the bunch is going to be Yuri Perez if we don't bring him back. So I think we really need to prioritize bringing back Yuri Perez, even if that means that we need to not bring back Mizorowski. I think Perez is way more valuable than Mizorowski, so I think that's just fact. That's just very easy to see. We need to see if we can bring him back on like a 4 or 5 year deal because we don't want him to be back in like these later years of the 30s. Like we don't want to give him this 6-year deal. Like I said, 4 years is probably what we're going to try to be looking for here. We'll cut back in and see if we can do this. So I've been messing around with this. I've been trying to give him just the 4 years with like a 5th year option. I've gotten to the point now where I'm literally just giving him what he's asking for, but I'm moving the money up a little bit. I'm like, okay, we'll give you like a few extra million here and there, but we'll turn these options to team options. Because I'm like, okay, if you opt out after 3 years, that's fine. You'll be 35. I'm fine with you walking in free agency at 35. But if you opt in, at least we're only going to have that 4th year, which I would be willing to give you, and then the rest of it would be team options, to where I'm just like looking at that as like probably not bringing him back unless he's looking really like a unicorn with aging. And he won't accept it. He just keeps being like, no, I want the player options. Like I'll be like, okay, what if we give you like 37 million these first 2 years, and then this is like 30, not 30, What if we give you like 35 million? And then this opt out, and then we give you, I don't know, this year would be 33.5. And then the rest of this is literally just what you want. So we've given you what you want for every year and even more in some of these years. The same structure you want, giving you more money. But these last 2 years are team options, which I guess is, not actually more money, but you know what I mean. And then we go, ask for response. He wants the guarantee on the team buyouts. Then he doesn't want it. He wants to be player options. And he's just, it's not great. This motherfucker will not do anything. I don't want to give him this. I don't want this. This is going to be, he's going to opt into this, and then we're going to have him in these years where I guarantee you he's going to have some devastating injury or his aging is just going to fall off a cliff, and then we're in this thing where we're paying this like guy who's not even playable $32 million a year, and it's just, I can't do it. I can't do it. And now we're at the point where he's like sad, so it's like, and I might have like 1 or 2 more offers in on him. All right. I have made some adjustments. We are now giving him $40 million for this first season, 38.5, then 36.5. Then there's an opt-out where it drops down to 33, and then 33 million for these other team option years, which I'm looking at as not actual years on the team, but they're whatever. But I'm giving him this big numbers in these first 3 guaranteed years. Maybe we'll even bump this up to like 37.5. How about that? We'll give you this. Absolutely. It's going to be tight, but we'll give it to you. We're not going to bring back Mizorowski if you sign this. I'm tempted to even throw in the no trade clause to see if that would entice him, but I mean, I've done that before and it didn't seem to do anything for him, so let's perhaps ask for a response. Don't like it with a TS. We're getting close. But we're not actually close because you're just reverting back to this shit. We're not actually close, man. And the thing about him is he's not currently eligible for compensation, as you can see in here. So if we don't sign him, he just goes off into free agency for free, and then we have to compete with everybody else, which, I mean, if the contract that Zamora re-signed with the Cardinals is any indication, probably somebody who we're not going to be able to, like, compete with. Because, like, the Dodgers will just go in and be like, yeah, we'll give him whatever the hell we want. Or whatever the hell he wants. Does it say, like, what he's projected to get? It does not. Fuck it. We're going all out with this last offer. I will give you 3 years guaranteed at $40 million. Guaranteed for 3 years. And then you'll have a team option for that 35 season. If you pitch well through this age 34 season, I'll bring you back at $40 million again. Will you accept this? He will not. Oh my God, I'm not locking you in through 37. I'm not doing it. I can't. And let's just say hypothetically that we don't get, because it's looking like it's going to be the outcome is that we don't bring back Yuri Perez. Then what are our options? Trey Savage, who's fragile. He might be a bit cheaper. That's a possibility. He might be a bit cheaper, but do we want to sign somebody like this who's fragile? Probably not more than like a 2-3 year deal. Is he going to want that? Probably not. As far as the other starters available, nobody who's anywhere near Perez's level. It would be like let's just say that we don't bring back Mizorowski either, and then we sign some, like we have Flynn, Hoskins, so Lampkin, Flynn, Hoskins are 1 through 3, and then let's just say Sosa is our 5th, and then we pick up another guy to be our 4th. Obviously a downgrade in rotation, but it could be a solid rotation, especially, who knows, we could pick up somebody at the deadline to improve it. What the hell am I looking at? Oh, it's current free agents. It's just a lot of 50s. It's a lot of 50s. It's old man Corbin Burns, who I'm probably not interested in bringing in at 40 years old. I mean, we might just have to like get in a bidding war for Yuri Perez, which makes me think that we should definitely not bring back Mizarowski so we have as much money possible to spend in free agency. I think that's the route because I can't. And the thing is, I don't want to piss him off to the point because right now, if I offer him another thing right now, he's going to be like, "Fuck you, I'm not interested in talking," and then he'll go into free agency and he won't be interested in talking to us, and we're screwed. So I think what we need to do is just not do anything from here on out and just let him walk into free agency and see what happens because we've seen it before where somebody like this enters free agency and we're like, but really the whole reason we got Yuri Perez was because he was entering free agency as a downgrade for Paul Skeens because Paul Skeens is asking for too much money, and then Paul Skeens ended up signing for way less. We've seen that happen before, so who knows? Maybe something like that happens. Or maybe we get Treya Savage for way less because Perez gets all the money. Who knows? But I don't think we're going to offer him another deal just to keep the negotiations open with him. Because everything I'm offering him, no matter what I do, it's just, he wants this. He wants this and only this. And I'm not interested in giving him this because I cannot do these player options at 36 and 37. I cannot. But we are going to go ahead and void the last contract. I don't know. It makes me think I should keep him. Because it's like, boom, we get Mizarowski. Let's say this is the rotation for us this year. Mizarowski, full year. Could he pitch a full year for us? Maybe. I mean, he's never really... He's had like Andrew Healy type years where... I mean, he just had the good WAR. He puts up good WAR and he has like a solid FIP. I don't know. Saying he's Andrew Healy is a bit disrespectful, but he is fragile. It is only for 1 year, and we do already have like $54 million in spending, and this is before all this other stuff happens. So like Lavonis probably not going to be back. Colin McKay, we're going to be cutting money on there. Chalowski, who knows? Alvaro Dowd, who knows? Van Wingarden, who knows? Carrasco, we're probably going to be just giving him a QO. He'll decline that probably. And then Whitman is a guy who I would like to bring back, but the fact that he pitched so well for us has now priced him into the $9 million per range, which is like, you were good, but I don't think you're like gonna, at age 33, I don't think you're gonna be Charlie Morton here, just being like, oh, I was this like innings eater, like very meh starter for my whole career, and now at 33, I'm just like, yeah, I threw a 99 now. You're not Charlie Morton, so I don't think that's gonna happen. So we're not gonna be re-signing Whitman at $9 million. Another thing we could do here is Chase Dolander, who I totally forgot about because we had him listed as a reliever, so he wasn't showing up as the best starters in free agency. But he is a pending free agent. He's 33. And he is somebody who, just for whatever reason, he has had some bad fly ball years. But he's a guy he's never really been that great, aside from last year was the best year of his career, split between us and Atlanta. But he's, I guess not overall, but you know what I mean. He's for F4 it was, for WAR it wasn't. He had a really good 2020 or 2031 with Colorado, but he's up there in years. I think he's probably more, I don't know. It's basically like you're rolling the dice because like with Mizarowski, it's, do you think he's going to be able to not walk that many guys and also stay healthy to be worth bringing back as a starter option? Because we're looking at him as a starter, not a reliever. Or do you think Dolander is going to be able to keep the ball in the park? That is really what we're deciding. And he's also going to be a bit more expensive, and he's going to want multiple years. Probably not ideal. So, like, if we go, like, he's probably not going to want this. So if I go, like, 3 years, vesting option for $160 million, and we say, I don't know, 22 mil for each season, what's that like? What's your interest in that? He doesn't want it. He doesn't want it, folks. But he does want vesting options for multiple years. I think we're going to mess with this a bit, but if he's willing to do double vesting, I would absolutely do some fucked up shit and be like, all right, you're going to pitch 158 innings in 2037. But, like, let's say 4 years, we take off this option, we just have this vesting option. I don't know, maybe we take this down to like 24, this down to 24, this down to like 24.5. I don't know why that was higher. We'll go 24 for all the guaranteed, and then for this one we'll bump it up to like 22.5. How would you feel about that? He likes it. I think we might do this. I think we're going to go ahead and offer this, and we're still going to try to bring back Perez. That's still an option for us, I feel like. But I think we're going to do this, and then we're going to let Mizorowski walk. I think that's what we're going to do. Yeah. So we're going to offer this to Dolander. Boom. And then we're going to go ahead and here, and we're going to say, Mizorowski, didn't work out here. Wish you luck somewhere else. I can't trust this fragility. I just can't do it. We can't have another year where we have 3 of our key pitchers getting hurt. So now what this does is it makes it so Sosa could, if we bring back Perez, Sosa could move into the bullpen as like a big innings eater stopper sort of guy. It's funny to call a bullpen guy an innings eater, but you know what I mean. A guy who's going to go in there and he's going to pitch like 60 games, but he's going to have like 140 innings in the bullpen type of guy. But, you know, if we don't get Perez, I would be fine rocking Sosa in that 5th starter role and at least seeing what we can get from him. But we're going to at least try to bring back Perez, or maybe get you Savage on a cheaper deal, even though he is fragile. But if we can get you Savage on like a real bargain, I would be interested in doing that. But we're going to go ahead and see what we can do with these ARB guys and whatnot and head into the offseason. Like the true bulk of the offseason. So I went ahead and we shopped Colin McKay, did a multiplayer package, did a single-player package, and something came up interested in the prospects one. One of them is, you see this blue ink jump out, but this is a 17-year-old who they literally just signed a couple months ago in international free agents. This guy is so far away. I mean, you know, we could trade for this guy, and 2 weeks later, he's a 55 potential. So I don't think I want to make this trade, but there is another one that interests me in Osamu Suzuki, Japanese Babe Ruth from the Reds organization here. You can see his numbers in the minor leagues have never really been great. He did have a good Double-A last year, but he struggled in Triple-A. And this is like, I talk all the time about how I love these types of hitters. These big contact, avoid K, BABIP, gap power, speed profile types. This guy is my type of hitter. This guy is Fletcher Clancy on steroids. And I know that we have log jams in corner outfield spots, but this guy, like, if we trade for this guy, I'm instantly thinking he's like a Jeff Van Wijngaarden replacement. If we have this guy, and let's just say our outfield is Van Wijngaarden to start, or maybe it's maybe it's Suzuki. It would probably be Suzuki in left and Lesnar in right, because Suzuki doesn't really have the greatest fielding, but we would definitely try to throw him in the lab for that. And then like Clancy is like the main backup guy, or maybe Clancy and Van Wijngaarden like we did last year. It's not a bad idea to have depth at that position, or in the organization, and this guy is, of course I'm hitting the wrong things, we go shot player. All they want is Harmon Stead, who's like he's a fine reliever, but he's like 30. He's never done it in the big leagues, truly. Or I guess he has a couple of years. What are his big league stats? Okay, so he had like one okay stint with San Diego in 33 and two thirds, but he was like really bad with Washington in 2031. But aside from that, he's never really done anything. He's not like the most overwhelming reliever. There's just a lot of overall green where he's like very well rounded. Ground baller, has the good personality class, but I would not be opposed on giving up him and Colin McKay to like, their relievers for what am I clicking on? For Suzuki here. I would not be opposed to doing that. Maybe we even discuss it and we go, what about if I just do Colin McKay and then I offer this to you? What would you say then? So I just did the same thing with Cholowski here, who kind of on the outs in our roster, I feel like. I kind of want to move on from him being our backup infielder. He kind of transitioned to just being the backup shortstop this year, and he's even not a great shortstop, so it's like, we could get that kind of, if you're going to have a guy be your backup shortstop who's going to give you a negative ZR, we could do that with somebody who's more valuable than just this guy. So we went out and shopped him a bit, and there are some interesting offers here in the prospect packages. Once again, Suzuki's there. This guy the D-backs are offering up is like another Suzuki, where he's a bit lower on the contact, but he's got much more power potential with the GAT power. Really good base running, got the good personality class. He's also better defensively, and he can also play really good first base, which Suzuki can as well. They claimed this guy off waivers. Wow, in 2032 they claimed off waivers, and he's just been... Okay. So this was one of the dumb AI things. I probably saw this guy on waivers, and I was like, we're not claiming this guy because he's like 23 or whatever. Because he was the 66th prospect in baseball in 2031. And then, 2 months later, they waive him. And then a couple months later, he's the 54th best prospect in baseball. So this guy's definitely had some pedigree throughout the years. And it was just a dumb AI thing where they were letting him go on the waiver wire. And he has had some struggling years in AAA. Struggled in his first taste of the big leagues this past season. Maybe. We might be interested in this guy. There's a couple other ones that are interesting as well. Probably the one that interests me the most is this Sam Bowling guy from Kansas City, who looks like he could be a really solid starter. Former first-round pick, who I guess just really hasn't panned out for them, despite the rating. As you look at his 3 stints here in the big leagues, they got him up there early, and he was like fine, but not great, not good even. Like, he was okay, but got a bit lucky in the bullpen in his first stint. Then was the bullpen again, was good, but very, very limited time. And then he was in the rotation last year, and he wasn't good for them. And then when he was in the bullpen, he also wasn't good. But like, looking at this guy's ratings, like, this guy could be really good. So like, I would probably give them more than just Cholowski instead, to be honest, for Sam Bowling. But I'm interested in this guy. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is that we did let our trainer walk, so we do need to pick up a new trainer, because I just felt like we just needed a different trainer. Ever since I biffed it on bringing back the super insane trainer that we had, we've been having some injury issues. So I feel like we need to go out there and try to find ourselves like an actual really good trainer. So the reaction on these trades from Kansas City and Cincinnati have come back, and they're both just insane to me. So Cincinnati, we offered them, so when we shopped Colin McKay, if we added Harmonstead to it, they would have given us Suzuki, and Harmonstead is still here, but then it's also like these other dudes where it's like this guy who looks like he could be an insane reliever someday, who was an international free agent signing, our first-round pick who tore his rotator cuff, which... maybe we throw him in because he tore his rotator cuff. Who knows? Then it's like this guy who I'm not really trying to trade for Suzuki. But then there's Aiden Huzzy who we're not trading. This Austin Anglesey guy is somebody I really like, even though he is fragile. I just think he could be a solid player with this type of defense, and it's this defense just fucking everywhere. I don't want to give up that guy quite yet. And then it's like Noah Schultz, who I'm obviously not going to trade Noah Schultz for Suzuki. And I don't understand why Harmon Stead is among these names. And then, like, here, where I threw on Cholowski, Cuevas, and Von Schriltz, it's basically the same names, but they also would be willing to take Kaneda, which is, like, I guess. But then, like, they would be willing to take Tackett, and it's like, okay. But I would probably remove, like, Cuevas, who's apparently down to a 45. When did that just happen? Weird. I thought he was a 50 when I added him on. Maybe I was looking at OSA foolishly. But I could have sworn he was a... Okay, so he literally just dropped to a 50 here in November. Or to a 45 here in November. Classic. But yeah, like, I would not be opposed to giving them, like, Cholowski, Von Schriltz, and then also this Ernesto Pimentel guy. Maybe I shouldn't be willing to give him up, though, because it looks like he's developing quite well, and he's also had some decent rookie ball seasons. Probably going to be a full year in A-ball next year. I don't know. But I mean, Bowling he's looking like he's really good. So I would not be opposed to, like, saying, like, let's say for this guy, we'll keep Cuevas just to have some depth. But we'll give you Cholowski, Von Schriltz, rather. And then we'll give you Ernesto Pimentel. You'd advise against making this trade. Well, this guy looks like he could be pretty good. I do say that, but, like, this stuff, he's listed as a reliever. So, like, this stuff probably goes down when he's listed as a starter. Back end of the rotation. Maybe not. Maybe we'll hold off on this for a bit, but I do think we want to go through with Suzuki, which I think we'll just give them... Because, like, they're asking for Harmon Stead. I don't know why they like him so much, but, like, I'll give them Cullen McKay and Harmon Stead. Because I don't want to throw in any other of these guys for Suzuki. I think that's what we're going to do. Because I think Suzuki could be, like, a monster, high-average doubles hitter for us. Absolutely, I think that's in his potential. So, we're going to do that. We're going to say, add Harmon Stead, and boom. We're picking up Osamu Suzuki here for these two relievers. So I'm just sitting here, going about my offseason. All of a sudden, it pops up this KBO player, says that he signed a contract with me, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? This guy, like, he's a fine reliever, but he's, like, not like anybody I'm too interested in. And he's also still in the KBO, and I'm like, was this some weird glitch? And then I go to his contract, and he signed this massive contract, and it's like, it says that he signed with me, so I thought it was some weird glitch, and I'm like, okay. And then I go to the history page, and it says he signed with us. What? I've never even seen this guy before. All right, well, we went into commissioner mode, and we got rid of that. So I don't know what that was. So Chase Dolander finally gets back to me, and now he's like, actually, it doesn't look bad, but I'd like a little bit more pay than that. So I'm sure now he just wants exactly, now he wants like $30 million a year. I don't think we're gonna do that, man. I don't think we're gonna do that. So now we voided the Mizorowski contract, but now we're gonna have the option to get somebody in free agency. Somebody to fill one of these spots. So, like, ideally, the rotation probably looks something like this. I mean, these two can be interchangeable. It just depends on if I want lefty-righty, lefty-righty, or if I am fine with back-to-back lefties, but or back-to-back righties, whatever it ends up being. But somebody to fill into, like, this top 3 area is what we're really trying to get. And then also get some, like, legit bullpen guys. Because we have dudes who, like, let's just say that Tackett is a stopper for us again this season. Maybe I'd probably view him more as like a middle reliever type guy, but like one of the top middle relief type guys. So yeah, we'll see what happens in free agency, but I don't think we're going to be giving Chase Dollander $30 million a year. And let's just do a quick little run through of the more important awards. The top being the MVPs in each league. The National League MVP was Jaquat Spiteri of the Miami Marlins. They're big bopping what they play at second base, but he should definitely be their first baseman. Come on, you can't have this at second base up the middle. Put him at first base. Wins MVP even despite that. Ellie De La Cruz finishes second place because he's still an absolute monster in this sim. And I also thought it was funny that there's a Mike Sweeney, big bopping first baseman named Mike Sweeney in this universe. Where on the American League side of things, it was Juan Trujillo of the Washington Nationals winning the MVP. Just came out of nowhere, puts up a 7-WAR season, and now this guy is on everybody's radar. And then, once again, in the voting, Bobby Coleman, the two-way guy for the Nationals as well. They got him and Trujillo on their team, so they're pretty set. They're pretty set. Another season where he puts up a 3-WAR at the plate and then a 5-WAR on the mound. I mean, he's insane. And then third place in the MVP voting in the American League is our very own Chris Aquino, even with only playing 109 games, 467 plate appearances, even with missing that much time, still finishes top 3 in the MVP voting, which is extremely impressive. You also got Juan Padilla getting MVP votes in here as well. Yuri Perez getting some MVP votes. Andres Carrasco shows up on here as well. Whereas on the Cy Young side of things in the National League, it was Mike Hannibal of the Milwaukee Brewers. This guy is the new Zamora, but he's also fragile, so it's only a matter of time until he also ends up like Zamora on the IL. But, 6-WAR season last year, an 8-WAR season this year for the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, look at this guy's fucking profile. Jesus Christ, as a lefty, too. He wins Cy Young, deservedly so. Where in the American League, it's Dan Devine, the man who had 300 Ks with a 35 strikeout rate and a 6 walk rate for the San Francisco Giants. You got Yuri Perez on here, top 3, getting votes as well. The American League Rookie of the Year, Aiden Huzzy, does get votes. He finishes top 3, but the award goes to Janderson Pluviose? Pluvios? Crazy name. Former first-round pick, the number 4 prospect, another guy. The Nationals all of a sudden looking like they're going to be a problem in that Metro division. Bobby Coleman, Trujillo, and this guy just coming out of nowhere to be absolute studs for them. And then I'm also noticing that there's a Ben Rice. No, this is not Ben Rice on the Yankees making his debut somehow in 2034. This is Ben Rice, the former first-round pick of the Washington Nationals. In 2033, coming up right to the big leagues here at Tulane University, and just being an absolute stud for them. Yeah, Washington, they've got some dudes now. And then for the American League Silver Sluggers, we only have one guy on this list, and that is, of course, our first baseman in Chris Aquino. He is continuing to do his thing. Shout out Cheekface. Chris Aquino getting the AL Silver Slugger. And then we had 3 players get gold gloves as well, one of them being somebody who came over from the trade deadline in Justin Crawford. The vast majority of this should be counted towards a Montreal Expos award winner, but we'll take it. Justin Crawford, Fletcher Clancy getting the gold glove in center field, and then Andres Carrasco getting the gold glove in right field with his 10 ZR. Just a fantastic season for him. Fletcher Clancy, I mean, he showed that he can start. He can start if Canalate, struggles again. Fletcher Clancy, we're going to have no problem putting him there. Maybe I should possibly try to look into trading him after a season like this, but I'm not going to do that. We believe in this guy. I want him a part of this team, even if it is as a bench player. Fletcher Clancy is somebody we really like. The Dodgers just offered me an absolutely crazy trade, just out of nowhere. Trade proposal from the Dodgers, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Obviously, getting up there in years, and it would be a trade for 1 year. Entering 2035 at $29.4 million, which is a respectable amount. But he is continued to just pitch at an extremely high level here, consistently like 3-WAR player, 4-WAR player here and there. I mean, he's still a dude. Now maybe we get him and he falls off a cliff. That's always possible, but as of right now, he's looking like he's still a dude. And they are offering not the most unreasonable trade, but there is a couple of guys we like in here. Obviously, Frank Anaya, our backup catcher. But, if we get rid of Anaya, we still have Cuevas and Steve Hagge in the mix. So, Anaya is probably the front runner to be like getting the majority of playing time at catcher right now with Logan O'Hoppe's whole situation. But Yamamoto definitely would help our rotation. He would mix into that top 3. Now, obviously, we would be in a situation next year again where we would have to fill that role. But who knows? Maybe we're able to fill it next year. Maybe there's better free agents. Because right now, the free agents, it's pretty much Perez, or we, get somebody who we think is lesser than Perez. Now, Yamamoto, like I said, could just fall off a cliff at any point. But at the same time, it is very possible that we just get like an absolute insane year from Yamamoto. And then, so they want Frank Anaya, who is like one of the main pieces in the deal, and they also want Juan Salazar, who's like the main guy that I'm like, I don't know if I want to give this guy up. This guy looks like he could be pretty good. He was an international free agent signing for us in 2033. He's 18 years old right now. Obviously hasn't done really anything in the minor leagues, but he's super far from the big leagues is his whole thing. But he looks like he could be a legit center fielder with some 70 range, 80 grade error, never going to throw the ball well, but he's got the high work ethic, intelligence. He's got the big gap with the speed. Now, he is super far away. So it's like by the time this guy's in the big leagues, who knows what the situation is. I'm kind of tempted to consider this. Our GM hates it, and it's like these other guys it's like Juan Campos is like a really good defensive shortstop who's never actually going to do anything because his bat's so bad. David Tarin is like another high-ish round pick for us, 7th round pick in last year's draft, 2033. Maybe he's something someday, but he's probably more of like a second base, poor bat type player. And then Juan Molina is like a whatever sort of international amateur. He was probably much better than this when I signed him. Yeah, he was like a 55 who we probably just got for pretty cheap, if I had to imagine. Yeah, we got him for very cheap as an international free agent. So he's like whatever. I'm not opposed to doing this. It would be Salazar that would be the real stinger. But I'm not opposed to like having Hagge and O'Hoppe be the catcher tandem this year with Cuevas as like the third guy. I'm not opposed to that at all. But it's like, do we really? Honestly, what if we go like, I mean, maybe is this insane to be like, maybe we try to get out from under O'Hoppe? I don't think that's insane. With the way he's trending, I just don't think he's going to be playable. I really don't. So, like, maybe we try to get out from under Logan O'Hoppe. We say, like, hey, Maybe instead of Salazar, we give you Logan Alhapi, and he has a no trade. I forgot that he has a no trade. Damn it! Why did I give him that? So what if we like add Paco Worthing? Huge package for Yamamoto. What if we also say like, hey, retain like 35% of this? Give us a little bit more spending money here in this free agent class as we move things on. And that's the response to not that one. Did that not go through? No, not free agents. Not free agents, folks. Pending trade is just not there. What happened? They traded him! Oh my god! Oh, the Reds! The Reds! Why did I mess around with that so much? The Reds went and traded him right out from under our nose! Alright, folks, we are here getting ready to start off the 2035 season, and it's time to get everyone caught up on what happened here in this offseason. So, I do remember that I showed Cullen McKay and Harmon Stead being traded to the Cincinnati Reds for Osamu Suzuki, the Japanese Babe Ruth, even though he's not a pitcher, at least I don't think he is. He's not. So whatever that means, even though it's not accurate, he is going to be our left fielder here to start this season. Just a little tidbit. I tried to improve. I was going to improve his defense, or at least attempt to, because it's not ideal, but he has the potential to get up to 55, which is a little bit better. And for whatever reason, I think it's because last year in AAA, he spent the majority of his time in first base. So the game thinks that he's a first baseman. So when I tried to improve his position, it was like, oh, you want to improve his first base? Even though he's listed as a left fielder. I think that's how the game looks at it, because that's what makes sense to me. So I didn't do that. We ended up trying to improve his stealing, which we did indeed get a successful training on that, but we'll get into more of that once we do the Dev Lab programs when we go over that. So back to the transactions page here. We did that trade. Then we signed Mike Blake. I believe we went over this to be our new trainer from Lakewood, New Jersey. We also went out and, there was this thing that I went over. Don't worry, he's not on our team. No need to worry. We don't have our budget being screwed because we signed this guy to a Yuri Perez contract. Rach Chalowski, we traded him off the team to the San Francisco Giants, along with just a throw-in guy who they did not even bring back, in return for Jared Gillig, who is an interesting player to be like an interesting relief guy for us if he reaches this potential, because he is getting to the point where he needs to like turn it on. Like, you're about to be 26, figure it out. But the guy has some decent prospect pedigree, as you can see here. Former number 1 overall pick in 2031 by the San Francisco Giants. Big-time prospect. He was the number 12 prospect in baseball at one point, number 9, number 12, even just last year. So what happened with him, basically, if you look at his career stats here, he was great in high A. They made him jump from basically high A, basically right to the big leagues. He was not good. Then he went back down to A-ball last year, put up a 7 WAR in 25 starts, won the MVP in A-ball at age 25, and they just didn't want him anymore. So we traded Rach Chalowski for him. I felt that was a fine deal because Chalowski's like whatever. He's just like a backup infielder who just really isn't that great, so we just got rid of him. He had no options, so he wasn't flexible or anything like that, so we got rid of him. We did not make any more trades with current guys on the team, but what we did do is we made a huge free agent splash, folks. Yuri Perez did not want to come back to us. no matter what I offered him, he was like, yeah, I want this giant deal where I'm basically going to be locked into you till I'm 37 years old. And we just didn't want to do that. So we had a shit ton of money to spend, and we pivoted. We pivoted to picking up a new shortstop here, Elly De La Cruz. Now, he is fragile, but he's been fragile this whole time. He's been fragile for years, and as you can see here, he still posts. He still puts up a ton of plate appearances. He still shows up. He still plays. So he's one of these guys who's fragile, but he's like more towards normal. Elly De La Cruz, and we got him on a what I feel like is a decent contract here. 5-year deal. 5th year is a team option. And we've got him front-loaded on it. So it's 37.5, then it drops down to 36.5, then 35.5, then 33.5. And then if he's still rocking and rolling at age 37, we could think about bringing him back at 32.5. So we have him guaranteed through age 36. I feel like that's a good bet. We just did not really have a shortstop, and I was just tired of playing Alvaro Dad at that position. And with the loss of Carrasco in our lineup this season, I just felt like we needed another bat. So Elly De La Cruz, you fill that shortstop role, and you add a bat to our lineup here. And, he is better off being a third baseman, but he still can play shortstop very well. And if you take a look at his career fielding stats here, even just last season, in 57 games, put up a 4 ZR at shortstop. So it's not like the guy has started falling off defensively. He's still very solid, and he's obviously an insane hitter. Literally was the runner-up in the MVP last year. Elly De La Cruz, now a member of the Los Angeles Angels. Don't like that he's wearing 7, but that's because I want to say Reggie Jackson has his number retired, 44, with the Angels. I think that sounds correctly. It's whatever. 7's a cool number. Then we also went out and picked up, or before we talk about Trey Savage here, we did get Caleb Hay here off the Rule 5 draft from the Toronto Blue Jays. I felt like he was on that borderline of like, he's almost 25, so like, whatever, we'll do it. And he's like, not like a sure thing. He's one of these weird guys who has a higher overall than he does have potential. He's an extreme fly ball guy, but he has the adaptability work ethic. So I thought maybe we could throw him in the lab at some point next season or whatever. And currently he's on the IL because he got hurt in spring training. But I do expect to see him on the big league team, at least give him a shot, because I think this guy was worth giving a shot, and we're going to see what he can do for us. But then also, yes, we did indeed sign Trey Savage to a 1-year deal to fill a spot in our rotation. Now, unfortunately, Trey Savage also got hurt in practice. Sore elbow. It was like a 1 to 2 week thing. Or I think it was like a 2 to 3 week thing. So I was like, we're not messing with that. You're going to go on the IL. And he'll be back in 9 days. So he won't be back. He won't be long. He won't be gone for long. He's going to miss like 1 start. Then he'll be back. But yeah, Trey Savage, he is on our team this year. Hopefully he's able to stay somewhat healthy for us on a 1-year deal, coming off a season where he missed the entire year. Hopefully he can channel some of these Oakland A's years for us. We would love to see that. But we weren't done there. Then we went and we picked up a Japanese free agent in the free agency, obviously. Look at this guy. We were trying to pick up some big-time relievers because that was a big issue for us last year. Now, unfortunately, we were not able to get everybody that we wanted because we were offering this guy. We were also offering Garza, the A's guy, who was a free agent. He ended up signing with the Dodgers, I believe, because they just outbidded us and we could not keep up with their offer. And they were giving them some like absurd multi-year thing. And we were just kind of, we had the good offer at one point, and then the Dodgers came in and were like, boom, $10 million more than we were offering, and I'm like, okay, we're not getting into a bidding war here. But we do end up getting this guy. Hopefully he doesn't pull a Kaneda on us and just get hurt all the time, but this guy's not a starter. We know this guy's a reliever from the get-go. Masanori Terada here, Golder, right-handed pitcher. He's a bit older, but we've only got him on a 2-year deal, and only 1 year is guaranteed, and it's cheap. It's $12 million for the first year, $12 million for the second year, and the second year is a team option. So if he's just awful this year for whatever reason, we can just be like, all right, it didn't work, see ya. But I'm thinking this guy is going to be pretty solid reliever for us back end of the bullpen with Kaneda this season. And then we also went out and got Jackson Merrill, who just kind of had a little bit of a fall from grace here from San Diego. He was their starting center fielder for a long time. You take a look at his career MLB stats here. He's been a dude. And he's been a dude like not that long ago. Even 2 WAR with a little bit of a down bat in 2032. And then 2033, not a great season. 2034, not a great season. We signed him, even though he expects to be a starter. He's our backup infielder. He's filling that Chalowski role. He's the only backup infielder on the team. He gives us ton of versatility in the field. He can play left, he can play right, he can play all over the infield. He gives us solid defense, maybe not so much at short anymore, but he's, good enough to spot you a game here and there. And then he gives us the great pinch running ability, base running. He's still a decent enough bat. I felt like he was a decent guy to give a shot here with some good, he's got some good pedigree here because he's been a stud in the past, but now he's at a point in his career where he's like, he's helping out a team here that's trying to win some games here as the main backup infielder. And it was only $3.7 million for 1 season, so I felt like that was a no-duh. I feel like it was a very easy decision for me to make there. He's on our team. Then we also brought back a couple of old friends. Chase Petty. He's back in our bullpen. He was in the rotation for Atlanta and Detroit last year. They traded him to Detroit at the deadline. We are not putting him in the rotation, even though we could right now if we really wanted to. But he's going to be a part of our bullpen. He's going to be a middle relief / stopper sort of guy with the other guys towards the back end. So Chase Petty, I felt like he was like a buy low sort of a guy we know can pitch well if we need him to, but wasn't going to like break the bank to go and get him because after De La Cruz and all the other guys, we were definitely cutting it a bit tight with the money. But it's a lot of 1-year deals, so next year we're still going to have a ton of cap space, or not cap space, but a ton of budget room. So we bring back Chase Petty on a 1-year deal, as well as Jose Lopez. He's still kicking around, folks, and he's still good. He was with Minnesota last season. He gave him 80 2/3, and he was solid. He was good. So like, we've never had a lefty in our pen aside from Andrew Healy, who's given us like steady innings for so long. Like this guy was a legit part of our bullpen for many years, and we just can't quit him. He's still out there. Every time I look in free agency, he's an easy sign. So we went out and signed him. If he doesn't work out, we've got some other guys in the system, but hopefully he does work out because Jose Lopez, he's a legend here in Anaheim. Now, let's take a look at what these programs did for us this season. The first batch of them, Jorge Sosa, outstanding improvement on his control. The current and potential, or the potential improved by 5, while the current improved by a little less than 5. So it could have improved by 4. You take a look at his stat page, it's up to 45 control. We love to see that. It was 40, now it's 45. That's right at like the threshold of like, this guy could be a decent starter for us. Right now, he's in the rotation. We're going to see what he does for us this season. Alejandro Canalate, outstanding gap power program. Potential improved by a little less than 5. Current improved by 5. You take a look at his stats, his ratings. He's looking like he's going to be a stud for us. The center field defense dropped down to 75. That's a bit of a bummer, but I mean, it's still 75. It's not quite 80, but it's complaining about a 75 range is pretty silly. So Canalate here, we're hoping he has a step up in the plate this season to go with this still great defense, and hopefully he can be an absolute monster for us in center this year. Then, Stephen Piscotty, we did indeed get the power jump with the potential and the current power, an outstanding program. He had himself a decent offseason, as we'll get into it a little bit here. Steve Hagge did improve the current power just a little bit, but it improved it. No improvement for Jeff Janicki. Unfortunately, Chris Lesnar had the biggest mishap. We tried to improve his plate discipline. Instead, he ended up dropping his K rate, or his K rating, not his K rate. So, we've had seasons with him at 35 avoid K before, but we got it back up to 40. Now it's back down to 35. Like we know what Chris Lesnar is. He hits a ton of bombs. He plays some good defense. He gives you some really good speed. He's a good speed power guy, but he strikes out a ton. He's flawed, but he's fun. Mike Hoskins also had a poor strength and conditioning program, but luckily there were no noticeable changes. Guadarrama was not able to improve his power. And then on the second set of changes, Aiden Huzzy once again tried to improve his defense at second base. No noticeable changes. And it was poor. So, what's that, like the third or fourth offseason in a row we've tried to do this? And he just never... The guy is just... He's just where he is at second base. Logan O'Hoppe, we did improve. We just had a Hail Mary, tried to improve his catching defense, but it was only successful, not outstanding, so it improves by less than a 5 on all these. So, on this page, it's still very much not starting catcher type stuff. And he's down to a 50 overall, so things are not looking good for the rest of Logan O'Hoppe's contract here. And there's just zero chance that he opts out after this season. There's just no chance that happens, but... Logan O'Hoppe, we'll see. He's a bench player right now. You'll see what the lineups look like. Kanalate, base stealing program, improved that by less than 5 on both of these. Suzuki, same thing with him, less than 5. I talked about how we did the stealing for him instead of the defense because the game thought he was a first baseman. Next season, we're definitely going to be throwing him in that left field program. Stephen Piscotty, like I said, had a good offseason. He got that power bump, and he improved his outfield, his error and his arm both by 5. Suddenly looking like a decent little piece here for us. Stephen Piscotty, the fakes Piscotty Jr., I should say. He's not actually Stephen Piscotty's kid. He's just a generated name that happened because Stephen Piscotty Jr. does not have a kid born in 2009. Steve Hagge. No improvement on his defense. We tried to improve his defense, but, whatever. And then Chris Aquino was a big bummer, too. We tried to improve his base stealing because I was like, we can get this up into the 60s, perhaps. That would make him even more valuable. Unfortunately, it made his leg proneness increase from normal, bordering on fragile, to somewhat fragile. I didn't know that each individual body part had fragility in this game, but... hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us. Chris Aquino is obviously a huge part of our team. Now, I should say that the overall durability, the overall injury proneness is still normal, so that's good. And then we also tried to improve Lesnar in left field, which did not do anything. So those are the programs here this offseason. And if we take a look at what the rotation and lineups are looking like here to start this year, we do not have... Schultz or Yasavage to start the season. Schultz has 5 to 6 weeks left. Yasavage has about a week left. So, the rotation right now is Lampkin, Flynn, Hoskins. That's a solid 1 through 3. But then we ended up signing Keter Montero as depth to put in the rotation. He's had some decent years in the past. You can see here his major league stats. He's had some decent years in Detroit, Toronto, and Raleigh. Even last year, he was solid with San Diego. He gave him solid innings. So we signed him just to start basically until we don't need him anymore. We're not going to be able to send him down even though he does have options because he is a veteran, unless, maybe he does want to go down. I doubt it. But he's just kind of in the rotation until these injuries come back. That's basically what his role is. Maybe he takes that 5 spot and Sosa moves to the bullpen. Who knows? But right now it's Montero and Sosa at the back end of the bullpen right now, or the back end of the rotation. And in the bullpen is we have Kaneda, Terada, who's going to be as a stopper because he's got 30 stamina, which is kind of pushing it to be a stopper. But I kind of want him to get the majority of the innings in the bullpen with Petty as middle relief, used more often, stopper as that third tier reliever. And then we have Shamar, Jose Lopez, Josh Tackett, and Juan Machua as the rest of the bullpen here. While on the lineup side of things, right-handed pitching and left-handed pitching, it's the same thing. So, Frank Anaya and Steve Hagge are going to share some time at catcher. We have Hagge as the backup playing every third game. Anaya is also going to be the defensive sub because he's got that 70 defense. So even when Haggy gets in there, Anaya can come in and be a defensive replacement if we need that. But Haggy's bat is just... I just think this power as a catcher is too good to ignore. I think this guy could be good for us, so he's going to be playing for us. We're rocking 3 catchers because OOTP still has that catcher ability, but we don't want him playing every day at catcher. And then OOTP is also the backup first baseman, DH, and main pinch hitter. Where Jackson Merrill's the backup second, third, and short. Fletcher Clancy and Van Wingarden are in the outfield. And then the 1 to 9 here is Soto DH, De La Cruz short, Padilla third, Aquino first, Huzzy second, Lesnar right. We just have these guys here to where I think Lesnar's a better bat than Huzzy, but I don't want back-to-back big strikeout guys. So we're going to have Aquino, Huzzy with the avoid K and the power in between them, and then it's Lesnar, sort of like how Machado was that? I already forget his name. Andres Machado was in the 3-hole last year to split up the big K guys. And then, so yeah, Huzzy, Lesnar, then Suzuki, then Canalate, and then Anaya. So that's the lineups this year. We're ready to rock and roll. Or no, we're not. I almost always forget this. The preseason predictions. American League Metro. You get the Mets projected to win, then the Yankees and Nationals both projected 80 wins. The Nationals, only 80 wins with all these guys that have burst on the scene. They've still got James Wood, too. Probably a bit low there. Ben Rice, Bobby Coleman, Ricky Tiedemann's on this team. They got themselves a squad over here in Washington. So I would say 80 wins is probably a bit low there. And then you have in the American League Pacific, it's the Giants, and then us right behind them projected for 91. Rockies, still got a squad. A lot of good teams in the Pacific. Giants, Angels, Rockies, A's, Mariners, Padres, even the D-backs, 81 win projection. And then once again, no respect for us in the hitters or the top pitchers as well. On the National League side of things, you've got the Great Lakes Division, Guardians and Brewers projected for 90-plus wins, while the Tigers and Blue Jays are projected for 87. And then you got some real studs in the Southern Division with Marlins and Royals projected for 96 and 94, respectively, with the Braves, Cardinals, and Rangers all in the 80s. And as far as the guys that we lost this offseason, Yuri Perez ended up signing a big deal through his age 37 season. And of course he signs for lower, dude. Like, I still wouldn't have wanted to have given him this. I could have lived with giving him a contract through his age 36 season, but we gave him more money than this. When we were trying to re-sign him, we gave him more money than this total. Even year by year, we were giving up the 40 per year, even with like 5-6 year deals like this, and he just never wanted any of it. He would not budge off the opt-out. He would not budge off the opt-out combined with the 2-player options. He just wouldn't budge off that, no matter how much I raised the price of it. And then, of course, he goes and signs in Philadelphia for a discount. I mean, what the hell? And then, like I mentioned, we were trying to go after Vince Garza in the offseason. We did have the highest offer on him for a while, but then the Dodgers came in and were like, yo, we're going to give you $18 million per year for 3 years. And I was giving them like 3 years, third year was a team option. All of them were around like $12 million. And they were like, boom, we're up in the ante, giving you a third guaranteed, and we're raising the price. And I'm like, all right, I'm not doing that. So Vince Garza instead is on the Dodgers here. What am I saying? It wasn't Machado. It was Andres Carrasco. I'm an idiot. So Andres Carrasco here. He is now on the Padres. Still remaining in the Pacific Division. He's been here his whole career. 1 year stint in LA, which went very well. And now he's signed long-term here in San Diego. And it's interesting because it is a backloaded deal where it goes up to $39 million in his age 32 and 33 seasons. And now it's more so in the 25, 29, and then 33. So interesting decision there to backload the contract. I would do the opposite of that. But, we got Elly De La Cruz. They got Andres Carrasco. He's a bit younger, but he plays a less premium position, and he's never really had an MVP-type season, whereas Elly De La Cruz has been an absolute monster in this sim. Now, he is on the wrong side of 30, obviously, but we still believe that he is that type of guy as he's proven into his 30s here, he's proven to still be very, very good.